You don't know me.
I think about this all the time. Ever since I realized that women were the original timekeepers, I cannot stop thinking about it. So there's been a lot of observation, discussion, discourse around how women's cycles and the moon are sort of in tandem with one another. So the average cycle is 28 days, average, right? And the moon cycle is also 28 days. And like I said, they're in tandem. So it doesn't, correlation does not equal causation, but it's really cool that they kind of are on the same pattern. What's also super interesting is that there are 13 moon cycles in a calendar. And on average, women have 13 cycles in a year. Notice how I didn't say 12. I think it was the Egyptians who first realized that there are 365 days in a year in one sun cycle, meaning as long, that's how long it took for the Earth to go around the sun. Now, within that, there are 13 moon cycles. And I think it's so interesting how we got the year right, but we didn't get the number of months right. And, a big reason for that is that we use the Roman calendar, and the Roman calendar was sort of arbitrarily invented by, obviously, the Romans, but random months were added under Julius and then Augustus Caesar. And that's why we have months that have super odd number of days, right? We have 28 days and 31 and 30, and it's just kind of random which months have how many days, and it's not consistent. And the reason for that is if we had 13 months, they would all be 28 days exactly. They had to fit the 12-month calendar into the 365 day a year cycle of the Earth going around the sun. But back to women. Think about the power you hold when you can keep time, when you are one of the only individuals to keep time. Now let's go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Tracking the stars is super, super old, but even before then, women had clocks in their bodies. And when you have the ability to measure time, accurately measure time, what else do you have? You have the ability to understand the seasons. You have the ability to plan. You have the ability to influence your agriculture, your family planning. In fact, I'm trying to remember where I read this study, but there was this one study about how ancient women would plan their families around the seasons. That's so freaking cool to me. And another thing that is also super cool, sort of you guys may have seen it on TikTok, is this modern-ish idea of your cycle being in 4 stages. So when we think of a woman's cycle, we think of just the period, but menstruation is only 1/4 of the cycle. There's 4 phases to our cycle, and 4 seasons in the year. There's just something really cool about the idea that women literally have a little world inside our bodies. I don't know, I just think that's really beautiful. But going back to being able to keep time, when you can consistently measure time, when you can plan ahead in order to ensure your survival, you are creating a society, you are creating a civilization. You can make sure that you store up food for the winter. You can figure out which crops grow when and for how long and when you need to plant them. To better understand the weather, maybe at your 4th cycle of that year, there's going to be a lot of rain. So you could figure out generally patterns of weather, of food, and of livestock. That's another thing too, springtime when lots of animals give birth. So whenever I look at the 12-month calendar, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit because it's it's in many ways it's arbitrary. In many ways it's not actually accurate to what is happening in the universe around us. But inside our bodies, we have an accurate record of that. Now there is a caveat that if you're obviously not having all your needs met, if you're not getting enough food, if you're not feeling safe, if you don't have enough weight on you, your cycle's going to be inconsistent. But I just think about the idea of how the more you know about agriculture and the timing and the weather and when animals give birth, the more you're able to meet your needs. The world we live in today is sort of based still very much on, oh my dog is Fippy. What was I saying? I forget. But basically a lot of ancient women had a lot more agency than we perceived that they did based off the own sexism of our scholars at the time. You guys seen the article about, this came out a couple of years ago, about how 40% or more of hunters in hunter-gatherer models where women played a huge role in domesticating animals, especially dogs. In fact, women were like the main domesticators of animals. It wasn't this like huge aggressive like alpha male thing that people, perceive it as. It was, we literally just gave them food and they just kept coming back and we just kept giving them food. Even the alpha male thing, the guy that first proposed the alpha male thing realized many years later that there is no such thing as an alpha male. It was always just a mother and their younger pups. And he thinks it's like his worst, his like greatest life regret that he proposed that theory. It's not to say that women haven't been oppressed, especially women of color, especially in our kind of like imperialistic society based off colonization. But I often still think about how, oh my god, look at the way my dog's sitting. Hold on. He's a perfect little baby angel. Pippi, 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 pippi. But anyway, I think often about how our modern world, our society, is based off the way that we ran things. And like 400 years ago, the people who are on top in our society were basically just like the best killers 400 years ago, the greatest exploiters, conquerors, colonists. So we measure like who's greater in society by who has the greatest ability to kill others and who has like killed others. But sometimes I wonder what our society would look like if we were needs-based, if the main goal of our society was meeting everybody's needs. And in fact, the examples of matriarchy in different cultures that we have, and matriarchy in nature is actually very common. It's all needs-based. It's making sure that the needs of every individual are met. It's like nurturing. It's like taking care of others instead of destroying them. I don't know. So yeah. Anyway, that's my little brain rant dump thought. Sorry.